Let me start today's soft talk with an episode from the great Mahabharata. The five Pandava brothers Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev. They have a game of cards with Duryodhan and his ilk, Duryodhan and his brothers in the great palace of Hastinapur. In that game of cards, the Pandava brothers lose everything, their honor, their dignity, their land and whatnot. They are left to fend for themselves. They have no other option but to go into exile. Though that card, it involved a lot of plotting, sinister designs to rob the Pandavas of everything. They have no option but to accept that result. They lose everything and they just go into exile. Eva the plotter, Sakuni, the uncle, the maternal uncle of Duryodhan and his brothers, had a great role in dealing a huge blow, that is, the defeat to the Pandavas. One day, while in exile, they are kind of lost into the woods. The Pandava brothers are quite thirsty and hungry as well. In search of water, they are just checking every length, the length and the breadth of that forest of the Mahabharat era, but they don't find even a single well, even a single spring, even a single cascade out there. In such a desperate situation, the Yudhishthira, the eldest of the five Pandava brothers, devises a plan. He decides to send one brother at a time in search of water. What happens is Bhim goes first. He wanders around the forest, but he is lost. Even after a long time, he doesn't return to Yudhishthir. Then he sends Arjuna, the third eldest brother, in search of water as well as Bhim, the second eldest brother. A lot of time passes, but there is no news from Arjuna. He just goes vanishing into the woods. Then he sends out Nakul, the fourth brother, in search of water as well as uh, other missing brothers. But Nakul also does not come back, and the same happens with Sahadev, the youngest among the five Pandavas. After all his brothers go vanishing, go missing in the woods, Yudhishthir goes out in search of his brothers. While wandering around that forest, while roaming around that thick forest, he comes across a pond and he sees all his brothers uh, fallen by the side of that pond. He senses something is wrong. He approaches them and he tries to just sate himself. He tries to quench his thirst, but then a voice he hears a voice. There is this yaksha, a semi-divine figure that is the protector of that water body. The yaksha warns him not to drink from that pond without answering his questions. Yudhishthir somehow suppresses his thirst and just gets ready to answer the questions from the Yaksha, the guardian of that water body. Here, Yudhishthir has no option other than answering the questions from the Yaksha because he is the wisest among the five brothers, and he knows that he will suffer the same fate if he does not, if he disobeys that man, that semi divine figure, because if he does not answer those questions, he will also face uh, face the arrows uh, from the guard. So he gets ready to answer those questions. Yaksha uh, rages. Yaksha asks the eldest Pandava a series of no nonsense questions, questions that only wise people can answer. Among those questions, a particular question is quite relevant for Nepal of this day and age, and I just will talk about Yudhishthira's answer to that question. Yaksha asks a question about death, and Yudhishthir is considered as a manifestation of Dharmaraj or Yamaraj as they call it. Yamaraj is the death of a god of death. Yaksha's question about death, Yudhishthir says that a person might be considered dead if he is in extreme poverty. A country is dead if it is full of anarchy. That is what Yaksha replies. Yaksha becomes quite happy when Yudhishthir answers all of his questions, and he just allows let's Yudhishthir drink from the lake. He allows Yudhishthir to satisfy his thirst and also uh, says that he is ready to grant him a wish. Whatever he wishes, the Yaksha says he is ready to grant that. Uh, to cut the long story short, uh, Yudhishthir wants the Yaksha, the guardian of that water body, to bring all his brothers to life. Yaksha, as he was bound by that promise, uh, obliges Yudhishthira, all his brothers come to life. They drink from that pond and they just proceed ahead. That is how the story goes. And this story is relevant in today's Nepal as well. In particular, that quote, that portion of the quote, that a country is dead if it is full of anarchy. And anarchy is what we have been seeing of late in this country. Not a day passes by without one group or the other raising a demand, a series of their demands hitting the streets and just bringing life to a complete halt. Mighty Ghar uh, Mandala in the capital and the vicinity in particular have been witnessing this kind of phenomenon for quite some time. That recently was a teachers' protest. They have still been protesting with just demanding the government to just fulfill their demands. Then there are teachers, then there are doctors. Doctors have come under attack following patients' death, and these doctors have been hitting the streets, demanding security. Not just not so long ago, there was a protest demanding some lenient citizenship provisions. People were demanding citizenship, and there were some laws that were hindering them from obtaining citizenship. That is what their claim was. So they demanded this passage of the Citizenship Amendment Act. The president of this country, in a very controversial manner, obliged them by amending that date expired Citizenship Amendment Act, which paved the way for thousands of people getting uh, citizenship, Nepali citizenship certificates. This at a time when a good number or large number of Nepali youths have been leaving the country permanently or temporarily in search of jobs, for studies and purposes like that. There are several people stating that uh, to take advantage of lenient citizenship provisions, uh, people from across the border, people from India have been lining up. There are lines measuring up to 2 kilometers in several districts, uh, and these people are demanding, these people who hold Indian citizenship certificates have been lining up to claim Nepali citizenship as well. What repercussions will this have on national security? What repercussions will it have on this demography of this country? What long-term impact will it have on Nepal? There is like the, the questions are blowing in the wind. The questions are there, and there is no single authority to answer these questions. Not so long ago, there were people, loan shark victims, hitting the streets. uh, they used to gather every day at Maitighar Mandala seeking justice, uh, just punishment for these loan sharks who would exploit their poverty. The loan sharks who used to exploit their poverty, they used to charge exorbitant interest rates on the loans taken, and they would forge documents to just exploit uh, those people, the farmers, the poor farmers who used to rely on the loan sharks, the local loan sharks, to just run their businesses, to feed their families at all. All in all, the government wakes up and acts only when there are protests, when there are strident demonstrations in the country, when only like people hit the streets for their different causes. There was this protest demanding compassionate arrangements for street vendors. There were like so-called self-styled experts who were demanding that street vendors should be allowed to ply their wares uh, along the roads during congestion during relatively congestion free hours. That was the demand. What impact such a move could have on a free flow, on traffic movement, on swift traffic movement of commuter buses, fire engines and ambulances, one can only guess. But still, to gain popularity, to play to the gallery, even political leaders came to the forefront demanding that uh, these vendors be allowed to ply their wares by the roadside during off hours, during hours that are relatively less congested, during hours that don't see much traffic in the capital. So there are a myriad groups with all sorts of demands, and the state is overwhelmed. Such is the situation that the Supreme Court has to has to order the government to ensure border security. The government does not act, it appears, without orders from the Supreme Court or without pressure from the streets. That is the situation. All in all, anarchy reigns supreme in this country. Also, it is evident in the fact that the government has opened uh, files of different high profile corruption cases like the Lalita Niwas scam, Bhutanese refugees scam, and other corruption scandals. But there has these it has failed by and large to take these investigations to logical conclusions. There is a widespread perception, a feeling, a deepening feeling among the public that influential people in this country can get away with grave crimes because they have the access to the corridors of power. They have friends in high places and they can get away with serious crimes. This perception, this anarchy, this rise in corruption, this rise in inflation, this lack of law and order, this lack of good governance in the country, and this rise of anarchy, this rise of anarchy brings us uh, back to that takes us back to the times of the Mahabharata, to the answer that the wise Yudhishthir gave, that a country is dead if it is full of anarchy. And the people, the humans, those humans that are facing extreme poverty might be considered as dead because they cannot help others. A country caught in anarchy cannot just uh, shelter its people, it cannot feed its people, it cannot secure the future of children and women and all people, all its people. So it's a very precarious situation facing the country. The country is in sick bed, and the pity is not. The pity is that the government does not seem to be doing anything to arrest this decline, to arrest this anarchic situation and bring back this uh, restore normalcy, because the parties in the government uh, in particular the three top brass of the three major political parties, that is the Nepali Congress, the CPN Mao Center, and the CPN UML. They seem least bothered about the country. The leaders seem bothered only about securing their petty interests. The country is on sickbed at present. The government should wake up to this situation and act before it's too late. It should act to end this reign of anarchy and restore law and order. With this remark, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. I request you to subscribe to this channel, comment on our presentation, and press that like button. Your support means an awful lot to us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.